Welcome to the Informed Advocate Podcast, and I am your host, Sharon. And the Informed Advocate Podcast facilitates the intersection of self-care, advocacy, and compassion among self-caregivers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, on this episode of Informed Advocate Podcast, what I want to do is talk a little bit about informed advocate and a self-caregiver. And if you're not already one, how you can become one. And so an informed advocate has the freedom to voice one's needs, use discernment for informed consent about life choices, and it's the authority of one's health and well-being. And so in saying that, meaning that when we're advocating for others, we're advocating for ourselves. And then also when we're advocating for others, it's really important to allow them to make those choices for themselves when, they're able to. There's certain circumstances that people may not be able to, such as, of course, babies. But then I don't know, they're advocating for themselves. So when they're hungry, especially when they're hungry and their doctor needs to change, what do they do? So they're using their voice. Oh, wow, we really break things down. And so, again, being an informed advocate is such a wonderful thing, and you're doing it anyway for a lot of people. You're doing it anyway without the title, and actually, that's the best way to be. But also, it's good to have that title because it really comes in handy at times. The other aspect is self-caregiver. And so here, self-caregiver is one, a personal self-caregiver and be a family friend. And then when it comes to professional self-caregivers, those are people in the medical field, people working, it can be first responders like law enforcement, fire department. It can be mental health workers, it can be teachers, pretty much anyone nowadays who doesn't fall into the family friend category. But the other thing is sometimes people are both, meaning like medical professionals, if they have a family or a friend who may be experiencing something or they have to take care of, especially for those of us whose parents are older and parents need that support and sometimes to literally care for. And so it can be both, but I say like this, most professional caregivers are personal caregivers, but not all personal caregivers are professional caregivers. I'll put it like that. The other thing too that I want to say is that informed advocates and self-caregivers really mesh together. They almost can seem like they're the same thing. They're not. Now, one thing I will say is that as a caregivers advocate. So that is definitely true. But someone can be an advocate, but not necessarily a caregiver. However, I say this, they may not be a caregiver for others in a sense, but they're definitely a caregiver for themselves. And that's the other thing about being a self-caregiver is that a self-caregiver acknowledges that self-care is the gateway for supporting and caring for others. Because there's no way around it, because when it comes to stress in being an advocate and in being a caregiver, stress is part of it. Stress is inevitable. Even if one thing that I've learned is that I kind of call it, I'm really good in my head. I'm really good about putting things in perspective. That's not my stuff. Okay, I can do this. I can handle this. But what I really didn't realize, even in doing this work, uh, and being a self-care advocate and being a self-care practitioner, meaning that I'm practicing the work, is that how much stress really impacts the body. And this is why self-care is so important. And so, again, part of a firm holistic network is to alleviate stress, prevent burnout, and resolve health-related concerns because stress just causes so much. And so it's about being active and practicing the things that we learn. And so when it comes to being an informed advocate, it is learning all that you can in order to support, not always in doing things for other people because, and then again, each situation is different, but for the most part, when we do for people, then they're not able to not just make decisions, but they're not able to support or care for themselves. And we'll have some other conversations about, if you don't use it, you lose it. That is so true. And we know there's a lot of things that happen that goes along with, when we support others and they're not in a place just yet when they're able to support or care for themselves. And this is why our own self-care really comes into play. And so for this episode, I just really wanted to just bring light into what an informed advocate is and what a self-caregiver is, and just how those two things are so important. Like for some people, maybe an advocate and really go forth, but then sometimes they, like neglect themselves. And then even when it comes to being a caregiver, and sometimes it's not intentional, sometimes people really do need, certain support or even to care for, meaning that we're actually doing something for them. Especially, I kind of call it physically. Someone may need help with with eating, with feeding, and getting things and doing things and things like that. And so it's not only about having a voice for those that we support. Sometimes it's about actually doing something physically for them in their support, in caring, for them. But all in all, is that as a informed advocate, as a self-caregiver, especially here in this network, and one of the things about an informed advocate podcast is having an open mind or want to have an open mind to all of the different options that are out there in order to support. Some things you may be able to put your hands on, and other things, and a lot of things, it's about doing, trying something new. There's so many possibilities, and some of the things that are out there you may not be able to find, by looking it up. Some of it is by word of mouth, and some of it you discovered it even for yourself, and so do not discount, you informing your own self, you taking care of your own self, and not to neglect yourself. It's one of those things. Is I heard someone recently say, it's like take care of yourself too, because self caregivers are needed, advocates are needed. And at the same time, we need everyone to be healthy along the way as I'm an advocate and I've been, a secondary caregiver, and that's just as much on a person, especially when it's a parent. And so, meaning that we're doing all the things that we do for a loved one. I wouldn't change a thing, but one thing I will say that I would add, even though I was doing the work, I would do more of it, more self-care. I would definitely say that. So again, thank you for joining the Informed Advocate podcast as we continue to explore and learn. And I know that with these past few episodes, it's more of a learning thing, like what is something? Because again, it's going to help you understand some of our future guests. It's going to help you understand some of the other conversations that we're going to have. Because one thing that we are here for, we're here for possibilities. We're here to open the doors. We are here for looking at all of the options. So this is how we make informed decisions, and also by doing and trying, as well. And as we make sure that our own nervous system is regulated, as we self-regulate ourselves, that's going to help other people as well and be able to support and care for themselves. So that's the main thing. That's the beauty of it. It's not just what we're able to do, it's what people are able to do for themselves. And you can kind of say because of what we do for them, but just more so, just the beauty to see people go awesome, and that's how it is for me. But anyway, I really appreciate you guys tuning in and continue to tune in. You can find us on Anchor and Spotify, and definitely come and check out Affirm Holistic Network at www.affirmholisticnetwork.net, and that's holistic with a W. So thank you for joining us for this episode.